It's drawing with Daniel again. Yesterday we left off with pose of Zane. I did work on it a bit. I'm not completely sure where we left off yesterday. I did work on it a bit afterwards. Um, I finished the outline, but maybe I should just turn this off. I finished the outline of his body, and this morning I just finished the head. So what is left is basically just filling in the colors and yeah, trying to figure out the shading of the shirt because the creases and wrinkles of the shirt really um, it was a bit difficult to figure out. So let's get to that. I'm just gonna quickly fix this because yesterday I grew it a certain way, and this morning when I tried to figure out the creases and wrinkles and stuff, um, I figured out that I need to adjust certain proportions and stuff, and especially uh, the seam around the neck. So I feel today there's going to be a lot of talking about fabrics and general fabric. Yeah, this term comes from 3D animation, but let's say for lack of a better term, simulation, or how cloth reacts to certain pulls and collisions and stuff. But before we get to that, I would generally just like to quickly finish up Zane's hair because it was, out of this entire drawing, it was, I almost want to say, the most difficult part to get right. So we can get to that. So basically what I'm doing now is I'm just filling in a base color. And after the base color, I'm going to fill in the shading. What would have been the correct thing to do was put in highlights, but Zane, do you use conditioner often? Use conditioner once a week. But yeah, the correct thing would have been to add highlights, but just to keep a consistency with the general shading and style of the drawing, and since I already did previous ones where I left out the highlights in the hair, it's just going to be a bit of a hassle to go back through every single one and fix that. I can maybe do that at a later stage, but for now I'm just going to go with this. I do have different layers for um, certain colors, but that was just for me to at the time figure out exactly how I'm going to manage the air. I wanted to do it apart, so it's just easier for me. But yeah, I'm just filling in the base color now. Um, Afterward, I'm going to fill in the shades. Yesterday, I did shade this part. Um, that was probably just me being a bit hasty. Also, one thing I am going to do is I'm going to use um, these bits, these dark bits that kind of stand out and spread into the air. I'm going to use a bit of cross hatching that's closer to the black mass, uh, just to make the shading pop a little bit. Again, Zaina's, I think, almost nearly black hair. So the reason yeah, yeah, it almost looks black. So I'm just using really dark brown, just so the individual hair strands and stuff is visible. Actually, I do see some few mistakes I can fix, but we'll get to that a bit later. Yeah, Zayn has now turned into a really cool guy now that he's learned Afrikaans.
I was not a cool guy before.
Nah,
Nah, okay.
if you don't know Afrikaans, you're just the English guy.
Yeah, that's fair.
English or German or what other language you
Germans
consider
aren't
your
so
mother
bad,
language?
not.
Huh?
Germans aren't so bad, eh?
No, Germans aren't so bad.
Yeah, they aren't so bad, yeah.
They just needed some time to do some self discovery.
Mm.
But now I actually have a friend that's in Germany.
Yeah.
He says the beer is fantastic. And yeah, the beer and the holidays and all that type of stuff. He says it's actually quite fantastic over there at that side.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean,
He says the only thing that's a bit of a problem is they don't have biltong.
yeah, unfortunately, they have jerky over there, which is just atrocious. It's just a really shitty cold meat that they just age for no reason.
Yeah, it's like jerky. It doesn't match
It's
that.
fucking gemors.
Yeah, exactly what Zayn said. It's a mess. And I'm just going to go over this side and do the same. Again, this isn't necessary for me. I'm just doing it because personal preference, obviously. Damn it. I'm going to start skimping again at the end of each stream. I beg you guys to just kind of ask, like I'm going to beg into the mic and into the camera for maybe, if ever, possibly, someone from Xpen or Wacom or the other brand name that I can't pronounce sees this and they decide to have pity on me and send me a new tablet because this one is it's starting to show its kinks. I think that was the word I was supposed to use. I'd rather say quirks. Somebody's going to roast me when they see this. I know that. Yeah, I think the hair we can consider done. Um, Now we can actually move on to the shirt. So the thing about the shirt that's going to be difficult to do now is the skull, because the skull isn't something I draw. It's just It doesn't have an outline, but is what I mean. So that's what it makes it a bit different. I kind of have to eye it a bit, but with all the wrinkles and creases, it's going to be a bit difficult to manage the shape, because now I need to understand where the shirt is pulling and where it's making um, like the bumps and the creases, because obviously that's going to affect the shape of the skull. And actually, I'm gonna promise you, I don't know about the rest of the guys, but I don't think neither me or Zane has a actual shirt with a skull on it. It's just like basically this fake uniform. We decide, oh, we're all going to wear this in our avatars. Actually, one thing that I did miss was the bit of wrinkles you get here at the armpit. So I don't draw them the way they're supposed to be. It's kind of just lines and whatnot. So what I like to do, just get that right, is gonna do shapes like these. Again, these aren't necessarily correct. Sometimes they are. You get certain cases where that does happen, but not necessarily in this one. It's certain cases. I just want to make a third one, otherwise it's gonna look weird. But they tend to be small. Just probably make one that isn't triangular. Nah, that's gonna look weird. Yeah, so I just like to put them there because they're fun to draw. But I mean, somebody that doesn't really have that's not looking for mistakes. Somebody that's not looking for mistakes, it's not gonna bother them. Though it does look a bit weird with the other bunch of wrinkles and creases. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to shape them to kind of fit towards that mass. Which is probably going to make them look a bit more like, I want the outline to be too thick, otherwise it's not going to. Yeah, that kind of fits them better. I promise you, this really wasn't easy to figure out this shit. I had to pull my own shirt like this, and I sat like this the whole morning trying to figure out how this goes, because as usual, reality tends to not look the same. Um, as usual. So yeah. Yeah. Reality doesn't look the same as what usually looks pleasing. That's why I say sometimes you have to know the rules to break the rules, and we break the rules to make stuff look more pleasing, because reality is bloody ugly. Just basically turn on the TV and watch the news, and you'll know what I'm talking about. So the reference that I'm using for the colors is actually a bit funny, I want to say. Is one of the previous poses I did, and I use this one specifically because it makes me feel good to see how much I've progressed from when I started here up until this point. So you basically have sad Zane, and then you have anguished Zane. Like, this guy looks like he just stubbed his toe right after he stepped on his dog's tail. So having a real bad morning. And see, here's a mistake I did. Default did tell me all of the shirts does need to have a skull on it. Obviously, this one does not. I kind of messed up a bit. I was wondering what that scratchy noise is and why the mouse isn't working correctly. It's because I'm not even using the bloody pad. You know, sometimes you just do stupid stuff and you wish you could smack yourself. Like when I work on the wrong layer. Put that there. I don't know, but with this specific project, I've kept working on the wrong layer the entire time, and I don't know how I managed to do that. I think also with this specific sleeve, I'm going to have to draw on one of the um, creases. Just give me a second because this really is bothering me at the moment. Ah, so obviously this is also going to be a crease, but I'm going to use shading to create the illusion of the crease being there. It's not necessary for me to fill in the line. The only reason I did it on this side is because where basically Zane is standing like this and we're looking from this direction. So this piece here is going to be in front of this, which gives me plausible reason to draw that line there to show the crease. Ah, damn it.
It's like, oh, we should apply for that. Yeah. But then it's a contract for 5 years. Oh shit. And it's like, no, that will probably like have a good budget. But again, I'm slow going. I'm trying to finish up. Two of them outside. Yeah.
Again, if you guys have any questions, you can throw them in the chat and I'll go through them.
I have a question, Daniel.
Yes. Come here quickly.
What's up?
When it says that,
Fuck.
but we have that, which confuses me.
What the fuck? Let me go my.
Because I've realized this did happen before,
Yeah.
but the chat was still active.
Yeah. I mean, I can see you. Just refresh the page.
Sure. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That was basically it.
Yeah.
That confused the living hell out of me for a moment.
Yeah. But we figured things out here at EIE.
Yeah, E.I.E. we're problem solvers.
Problem solvers. We hit refresh.
We basically the other half of the business is called digital solutions.
Yeah.
We come up with solutions here
On the digital spectrum.
on the digital spectrum. So if there's ever a discussion about E.I.E., you can tell them we are on the spectrum, the digital spectrum. There's so many things that people would consider, oh, we're on the spectrum.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Today I'm supposed to be talking about the process of me doing the work. But yeah, but whenever Zane is in the environment or in the vicinity, we just end up talking about nonsense.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll stay over here, mate. I'll stay over here. I'll stay out of your way.
I mean, that's what Wednesdays are for. Wednesdays are
Who is
banter with Daniel, where we just talk about stupid stuff, and sometimes Zane is with, and then we can just have general fun because Zane loves to leave indecent comments.
It's a skill.
It's a skill, and if you can't do that, it's a skill issue.
Fun girl.
So yeah. Sorry, I'm just I feel a bit silent at the moment, but that's just because I'm focusing now on filling in the base colors. Once I start shading, I'm gonna start talking again because that's going to be a huge process of me trying to figure out how the shading is going to work because I haven't thought of it. I only knew, oh, I'm gonna do this cool pose, but I didn't take into consideration what it's going to cost, and what it did cost was half of my life. The brain power I used to figure this out. And I promise I figured it out on my own. I didn't sell my soul to Mephisto. I actually had some trouble with Zane's arm because I did tend to draw them a bit too, I'll put it buff. I did draw him a bit too buff. Zane is gymming, but he is getting there, but he's not there yet.
You're breaking my heart, Daniel.
Everything takes time. But dude, I did draw you, um, like I drew the anatomy of your body,
Yeah.
and then I realized I need to cut down at some places because I've over exaggerated it too much. For example, your shoulders were so broad. You could have carried a cow. A cow.
Yeah,
Why are you carrying a cow home every?
bro, it's for gym, man. Gotta be strong. Gotta be strong for every single one of that bit.
I think it's just basically for you. It's not an exercise. It's to attract the eyes of the ladies. Zane is the residential lady man. That man's got more girls in his pocket than I have money in mine. And I have a full-time job. shoot, that's the wrong layer. Okay, now let's get to the, wait, still need to do this arm, then we can get to the torture. Yo guys, I'm so not looking forward to this. Oh, by the way, tomorrow is tutorials with Daniel. I think I planned on discussing uh different art styles, um perspectives and foreshortening, because that's going to be a whole discussion, and some of them are stuff I still struggle with, so you're just going to have to stick with me on that one. Okay, now uh, let's start with the masochism. I told them we're going to start with the masochism.
No. Why?
Because I'm not looking forward to drawing these these shading. I offered half of my life to this. I actually forgot I didn't actually shade there, which is a sin. Let me actually put it like that. Also kind of just want to get this hair over and done with, because due to the colors and stuff, it's a bit difficult to see what I'm doing at the moment. I promise it's not a skill issue, I promise I'm not colorblind, it's just Zayn's hair issue. I'm gonna pull out the other reference that I did for him. Not that one, that one's not. Oh my. Yeah, I did put it in the correct spots. My memory ain't too bad. Oh, damn it, that's a bit much. I think what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to kind of leave it squarish instead of filling up that entire piece. Yeah, I think I can call that a day. Now let's bring up the ugly zone. it's sad to imagine that somewhere out there in the world there is what do they call them again? Not a copy or evil clone. It's like someone that looks like you. There's a double ganger out there in the world of you, and maybe there's two, and the one is better looking than you, and the other one is uglier than you. You know, this is also weird. I don't know why this is happening to me now, but for some reason, the colors of the shirt looks different, even though I know they're exactly the same. Like this one looks a bit lighter than this one. That there is that illusion stuff that you get, but it's very slight. But I don't know what it is. I hope. I want to see if I add the shading if it's still going to be the same. That's just funny. I'm just gonna fill in these pieces first because I know they're automatically going to be um, filled in with dark. The darkness consumes you. Ah, damn it. Now we've reached the point where I don't really care what your religion are. You're going to pray for me. Okay, so now I have to imagine light coming from this direction. I always draw kind of like that arrow or just a basic sun. Well, that's a bloody ugly sun. But it's just to help me kind of understand where the shades need to be and all that. So taking that into consideration, the first one I can see is right here. Oh damn, that's a bit much. That's the first one. I might actually catch the bottom of that. I did previously mention that the reason that I didn't fill in this line was because I was going to use shadow to create the illusion of there actually being a line or a form of death. Actually, because the shadow is being cast like that, there's probably going to be a bit of a line like this. Uh, Probably going to fill in this side also. Uh, my sanity, I can feel it slipping already. And the worst part that this is the easy part. Where the real struggle lies is with the skull. And also the things I'm gonna have to shade in the skull also. Um shading coming from above. Probably going to have that piece filled in. Make the brush a bit bigger, a bit smaller. This is not good for my mental health. So the reason I also kind of fill in the one side of this line is the same reason I kind of fill in this side of Zane's face is because when the shadow casts on the face, so if I were to draw this or try to draw this more realistic, what I would have done is I would have grabbed where is it now? Would have grabbed this brush and kind of use it to blend into the other side because there isn't any because it's just the shadows moving in. There isn't any object that is casting a hard shadow, or for example, like the head. The head is an object that blocks the light from coming onto that side of Zane's face, so there's going to be a hard shadow, but there's not any actual object blocking the light, if that makes sense. So it would just basically be blending, but because of this specific style, the blending actually looks kind of cool, but again, because of the specific style, we just basically do hard shadows. So what would have happened in this case, we would have had a soft shadow right there. So it would have been the case of the shading blending into the base color, because it is there isn't any object that's casting shade onto that specific part, but it's just because that specific part is where it would start getting shading, so it would be more of a blend instead of just a hard cast. So I basically did this with this one also, and I would have done it with this side as well. The reason I didn't was I felt like there wasn't quite enough space to do it, and also there's already going to be a lot of shading going on this side, and I don't want to like overwhelm myself and people that's going to view this. Like for example, here I might do it. I actually should put shading there because Zane's hand is going to cast a shadow over his shirt. Well, that's a bit thick. Generally, um, just general English do not fail me. Basically, throughout most aspects of my life, I like thick, but not in this case. This case you kind of have to hit that specific mark. And yes, I did make a joke about that. Uh, it wasn't a lie, but it was a joke. So if you caught the joke, then kudos to you. And if you don't know what kudos mean, it's just basically an Afrikaans term, where it basically implies you. It's like I'm clapping my hands for you. You got it right. Yeah. See, now this is difficult, but this because with the bottom part, it's kind of like a dip, but here it's kind of a bump, if I can put it like that. What I can do at this part, at least for now, again, fill in that part and the bottom. It would have been nice if I were able to do it on this side yet, but I'm just going to have to figure it out. I can do this with this side, but actually also because of the finger, it's going to have to kind of climb out of there. And then also for the exact same reason, I'm gonna probably have to cast the shadow there because of the fingers. This is damn complicated because some stuff you only think about after the time. Um, yeah. Zane, can you quickly do me a favor? Oh, damn. Can you maybe just close these blinds for me? They're kind of blinding me. Yeah, this side I'm just going to also. Because see, the problem I have here, right, is again, this is a bit of a problem with the art style because I'm only using the base color and the shading. But what's going to generally happen is a bit of the shoulder is going to, or because it's part of the arm, it's going to cast a shadow like that. And because there was supposed to be a shading here, it's just gonna fill in that part, so you're not gonna see the shading cast there. So what usually would have been done is we would have taken a color that's darker than this and filled in that spot with it, but because we're not using more than one uh, type of shading, we can't really use that, so we're just gonna overlook it. Again, this is basically something that just would bother me and maybe other artists that looks at it, but your general viewer won't really notice any of it. Okay, cool. Um, Now, I would have wished I was done with this, but now we have this devil in disguise, which is going to cast the shadow right there. Now it just looks kind of weird. But you know, just for revenge, I'm gonna do this, which isn't wrong, but just in my little confused, messed up mind, it feels like some sort of revenge. whatever makes you feel better, I guess. So I'm just gonna cut in here. Just so I can give this shading a bit more definition. I didn't even notice I kind of selected the wrong color there. Again, this is a case where there should be color here and here, but I don't really want to do that because I don't want to overwhelm myself and the people that's going to look at this, because it's already kind of, you know, all over the place if you look at it. Did we miss anything? Yep, we did. This one I left out. So what I think I'm going to do with this one is go down here and make the dip there and fill it in like that. Now with the black part of the shirt done, damn it. We're going to have to do the shading of the man's arm. Actually, just kind of get this out of the way, the easy part. You know, this is what I mean. You sometimes do stuff and then you sort of afterwards realize, oh, okay, but you kind of left out this specific part. I'm talking about the part of the shirt which is Zane's hand that's kind of casting a shadow on the shirt. Yeah, okay. Yeah, almost want to say I feel drowsy this morning. It's one of those days where it kind of feels like uh, it's Thursday, but it feels like it's Friday. I don't know if that's just me, but I think I'm gonna have a very lazy weekend. So yeah, we're just working on the shading. I think after I'm done with this specific pose of Zane, which other one did we discuss we're going to do? There is the. Would you like the angry one?
No, it was the one where like the hands on the chest smiling.
I'm just gonna have to look at what that one's name was. Truth be told, with this one I'd also would like to make some changes, but again we'll get to that when we get to that. So yeah, let me just, never mind. So this is kind of going to be a little bit of a debacle, because as the lighting shines, it's kind of falling onto this part of the fingers. But because it kind of make a shape like this, like a cube almost, with these being the fingers and this being the back of the hand, and the light coming from this direction, the fingers are getting the light, but the back of the hands would also, basically it's supposed to, based on the direction of the light, but also kind of not. So what's going to kind of happen is they're going to get semi lighting. So what I mean by that, especially because of the knuckles, what it's just going to, let's just do the knuckles and we uh, move on from there. Should probably not make it that intense. Maybe that one should be a bit more intense. So what I was talking about was maybe doing something similar to this. What this would basically tell the viewer, based on the shading, is that instead of the hand being like this, it's going to be bended a bit like this, if that makes sense. This might actually be not that straight of a line. And with the knuckles being kind of like bumps, I think it would actually supposed to be like that. I'm just throwing this on this one. Also because the lighting has come from this direction, we're going to follow the shape of the sleeve, but again because the direction of the light is going to be I almost want to say tilted a bit. So what I meant by that is, with the object here, the shading isn't going to be here. It's going to be a bit offset because the lighting is coming from this direction, so it's basically shining down like that. So we would basically get some form like this. You can basically eye that, or you can draw the lines, but again, whatever works for you. Art is a form of expression, and you basically choose the way you want to express yourself. But there are certain ways you rather shouldn't express yourself in certain ways. This is my dark humor side of my brain speaking. So I would really like to make certain jokes, but I know full well I can't do that. We are actually concerned the day where we get a new co-worker, how they will or would handle this environment. Especially me and Zane, because I feel like most of the dark humor come from our direction. Another man sits there in silence, guilty as charged. No comments. Actually, for the last bit, I did forget. Usually we do play background music, but I forgot to put it on, so I apologize for that. This also just gives me a bit of room to not talk so much. It's difficult to talk about something when you're busy doing it, and you need to go in. You feel you need to go into a deep dive into it, but you're already basically doing the deep dive visually. So maybe just a quick explanation for why you're doing what you're doing, or if the people can't figure it out, but probably get rid of this. Okay, now the difficult part. I actually feel like crying at the moment. I knew this was going to happen, and yet I still did it. This is the purest form of masochism. It's kind of knowing, you know what, I'm actually just gonna create another layer, just for myself to kind of figure out how this is going to go. If the skull was basically there, then that would happen, that would happen, that would happen, and go a bit down here, there. That's a big dip, or bump in this case. This is at least where I get a break, because this side isn't that wrinkled that much, so. And luckily his hand is going to be over, or mostly over where the eye sockets would be. But just for the sake of it, I'm just going to expand a bit on this, so it looks a bit more, let's say, okay, for lack of a better term. And then I'm just going to color in the bits that needs to be. So what this is just a basic understanding for myself, where I need to go, because again, this is very confusing. Probably shouldn't do that. I'm just gonna lower the opacity of it so I can basically see what I'm doing underneath. Yeah, right there. Yeah, on the right layer. Okay, hopefully when I'm done we're going to look at this and it's going to be a masterpiece. Hopefully, but I can't make any promises. Okay, actually just want that piece a bit more round. Bit of a hue line. This actually took a lot of practice to get the line correct with the minimum amount of mistakes. I know people who get it right in the first try, but I'm not one of them yet. Again, as an artist, you shouldn't focus on what you can do at the present. You should focus on what you can't do yet. That's the difference. If you look at something and you tell yourself, I can't do that, just because you can't do that now doesn't mean you can't do that in the future. It's just basically practice.
It's one of those like jazz beats that you used to get. It's like, oh, you know, it's like 80s. Every time someone answers the hour, it feels really good about it. Yeah. Yeah, the thing is, also, it's a Google,
Okay.
does that change my region when you're in one South Africa? It might be the regional. Oh. That's too. Yeah. Even if you go see to the crowd. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think you change your Steam location.
Which I think I regret because that was my European.
And what's the bunch is back?
I try to skip my favorite shit to love.
What is the chance to?
He's in the UK. Yes, yeah.
So for the non-South African viewers, if I use a term that you don't understand, Google Translate is our best friend. Just make sure you're spelling it correct, because otherwise you might end up with a translation that you won't like. Because usually when I make a mistake, I cuss at either myself or the tablet, but because I'm on stream, I have to use decent words, and Zane would know, because sometimes he thinks I'm cussing at him.
You're talking shit, though.
Yeah, maybe I am.
Talking. Yeah, I wasn't either. You're talking cops, then.
Jy weet mos. So in the previous poses, the drawings we did, I didn't use any shading for the skull. So for the new poses, I did use it, and because I did do one previously, I'm just going to get that shading from him and then use that for the skull. Oh crap, that's probably not the right thing to do. Just getting the correct color, doing the correct thing, as we all try to do as we navigate through this thing we call life. Although then you do get people that believe there's no meaning in life, so you can just basically do what you want as long as you don't get arrested, because since there's no meaning, there's no consequence. But I am a stoic, so I believe in lifting up weights, but instead of weights I pick up donuts. And it's not because I have a connection to the police, which I actually don't. That was a joke. But yeah, I feel like maybe for the people that learn to watch the stream, if you kind of get the grip of my thinking process, people would kind of start to understand when I'm actually making a joke and not making a joke, because I've been told I'm very easy to read, but that's just from people that actually know me. Like, there's not a possibility in the world of me trying to lie to them. They know me too well. This one again. Probably is This is such a pain to navigate. Just turn this off and get rid of it. Cut layer. I think that's feasible. That's not even a sad zane, that's an anguished zane. Dude, you wanna come look at yourself? Yeah,
that's me when I wake up in the morning, bro. Having to leave the house. It looks good, dude.
I'm just going to pop up the previous post as a comparison. Which one was it? It was this one. you can see the pain. Yeah, I think maybe I could have worked on the arm a little bit more, but I'm gonna leave it as is for now. On the next post we can try to improve it a bit. We're just gonna file, save as. Yeah, this is sad. Poses, Zane, and oh yeah, we need to make this a PNG. Underscore. For some reason I did not name this with a capital S, and I do not know why. Just gonna check. Zain, sorry man, can you just quickly come here again? Was it this one that we needed to read?
I think so, yeah.
No, okay.
Sick.
So we're going to do that one next. I'm going to drop in the other one that I used as a reference, just to quickly get a sense of the position and the scale the character needs to be. Probably need to close that one before I open it up again. New one, create. Okay, there's this one. Then we use so we did I previously did talk a lot about my process of why I do what I do during sorry, my brain is lagging. I did talk about my work progress and what I do within the progress. We are going to chop the streams up in shorts at some point, or 10-minute long videos where I discuss a single topic. So when that happens at whichever point, you can just probably go check that out on E.I.E Crew. I think they're going to post it there, and I hope they call me in to help name the video, because they might name it the wrong topic or something. So the reason I also dropped this one in is just to get an idea of what the pose is supposed to be look like, or to look like. The thing is, I don't want to make a carbon copy of this pose because I feel like that's creatively bankrupt. So I know what this pose is supposed to convey. It's supposed to be Zane referring to himself. So I'm probably going to play around with a few poses and sketches before I actually start doing anything with it. But yeah, and as I said, I'm going to quickly use this one as position and proportion to get an idea of where I should draw what. Actually, I can also use this as an excuse to again talk about anatomy. Not that you can apply it to these types of drawings, but because it's a bit more cartoonish, it's about, you can talk about anatomy and how you kind of take away from it to create a specific look. So yeah, I'm just basically going to damn wrong color. Just gonna get the symmetry of the face first. You can fix the shape of the ear a bit later. So the way I try to figure out the body is through kind of drawing the spine. That's just me. So I kind of understand, oh, there's a bit of a hump here. Then you get the tip of the spine around this area. This is just to understand kind of how big the box is. Like a lot of people, when they start drawing the body, they draw it like boxes. I have another example. So you get this thing. It's a bit broken. Sorry about that. But you get this thing where they try to pose it, which is not really good. This one, besides the fact that it's broken, it's not very flexible. It's very limited in what it can do, but they use basically the shapes of this thing for poses, but for me it doesn't work. What they usually do is, for the torso, they create a box. Let me just open up the window so I'm making sure I show you the correct thing. So for the torso, they create a box. For the head, they basically did what I just did with Zane here. The lower body is also again just a box, but it's something more similar to what we have here, and the legs and the arms are also boxes. So it's very similar to this figure in its own, but for me personally, I don't like using boxes. I kind of draw more of a skeletal figure where I draw the spine but I understand that that's not exactly where the neck is going to be. Excuse me, I'm just going to put this back. My desk isn't large enough to keep stuff on it. That was just for, I just pulled that out for an example. So yeah, I understand this is where the neck is supposed to be. Although a lot of times when I draw these characters, I tend to draw the neck just before the chin, but I think that is a bit that neck is a bit thin. What I usually would do is drawing the center of the neck. Like imagine you're putting a head on a pike and you're drawing the pike, and there where the neck basically ends, I start drawing the shoulder, this direction and this direction. What I did realize with this pose, and I kind of realized it a bit late, the shoulders for Zane is a bit too broad. I did talk about that. When you draw shoulders like this, you kind of get to a point, let's just put a head here, because he's facing basically this direction, and the way perspective and stuff like that work, this shoulder on the right is going to be shorter than the one on the left. Oh, Rochelle just dropped in. And she dropped the cherry emoji. You know, I actually can draw cherries. I think a cherry goes like this, or this one would be a bit more round, and something like that. I don't know. So I'm basically going to use that same thought process for the shoulders, especially for this pose. It's fine if one pose looks a bit off. You're not going to go into that much detail as I talked previously, but again, it's just for proportion wise and for my own sanity. So this needs to be a bit shorter and this needs to be a bit shorter, just for, because I want to look at this and know it's Zane. That's what's important to me. I want to know I'm drawing Zane. So his shoulders should actually be starting here. That would also just mean basically bringing in his chest a bit. So what I think I'm going to do is, instead of just the one hand referring to himself, because I don't know if this pose is called me, but I don't think that was originally called me. I think that's something I edited afterwards. I don't know what it's or what it was originally called. So yeah, what I'm just basically going to do with this is I'm going to create a pose that's kind of like this, where I'm both hands on the chest, just okay, I'm referring to myself, this is me, that's you. And this kind of is a bit of a confusing pose when you look at it, because it doesn't look like he's basically referring to himself. It kind of looks more like a gesture to something else. Like, how do I put this? Oh, look at my fantastic mouse. Actually, that's a good way to explain. This looks like a pose you would use for a possession kind of thing. This is my mic. This is my drawing tablet. This is my keyboard. This is my webcam. So it's actually not mine. It's E.I.E.'s. But it could be mine I just sneakily have to drag it home. They don't have to know. Well, probably if they are reviewing this, they're probably going to have an eye on me for a while, discussing about me stealing their stuff. Ah, damn it. So here's this thing with Critter, and I haven't quite figured it out yet, but I have this, but it's only this specific brush. So sometimes I don't want to touch this brush. When I change the brush size, I usually use these markers on the side, because if I use this, then it's difficult to get it down to where I want it to be. So it's usually just 10.0, but the closest I can get to that is 10.6, unless I go back to its lowest, which is 0.01, and climb it up to 10, but again, that's not 10.0, it's 10.01. But with the tablet, it has this little wheel on the side that kind of changes the brush and automatically puts it at 0.0. So I like that. I know there is a way to kind of do it on the tab or in the program itself, but every time I try to do it, it just kind of messes stuff up. Michelle is asking, what is my least favorite brush? That's a bit difficult to say, because there's so many of them. I haven't even used all of them yet. Again, they're very, I almost want to say, situational, where you kind of have to play with them and figure out where you want to use them. Like, some of them are cool. I definitely say this one is my favorite. This one is my favorite, or this one. It's basically the same brush, but it kind of looks like the pencil brush in a way. It's very, I wouldn't say jittery is the correct word, but I just want to say gappy. You can see it's, yeah. My least favorite brush, that is a very good question. I think it might be one of these that kind of tend to, the lighter you press it, the less opacity it has. Just the reason for that being just because it's like a highlighter. Every time you cross over it, it kind of gets darker. And I really dislike that, because maybe I want to fill in a space and I wanted to have that certain opacity, but now because it goes over itself, it doesn't keep that opacity. So it really, really annoys me. I do love using the pencil one for sketches. If I'm working on a private project, I would use this specific brush for the outline. And also, I did notice what a lot of artists do, and again, I'm noticing these stuff as I use the programs more. They would like to use, when they color in, I color in by hand at the moment, but what they would do is they would use this tool and kind of outline the bit that I want to color, and then they would just let me just quickly get it, then I would just fill it in like that, which is quick and easy, but I haven't practiced it enough to be comfortable with that trick. But yeah, I think that's actually something we can go over tomorrow in more depth, because tomorrow is going to be tutorials with Daniel. Again, with the joints, I would just like to make these dots just to kind of understand, especially when you're drawing maybe a stretched out arm, for example, like this, and you just put it there so you can understand, okay, that's where the elbow is going to be. And the same goes for the legs and basically every other joint. And I talked about other people, the way they kind of break down the shapes of the character. For me is the chest specifically. Everything else besides the waist is like a skeleton for me, but for the chest itself I like to kind of draw I almost want to say a rib cage type of shape. It works for me and it's fun to draw. That's why I do it. Sometimes you don't need a good reason or any reason. It's fun to do, and that's why you do it. So yeah, I would use this, and then from my understanding, my limited understanding of anatomy, I would kind of guess, okay, this is probably where the back is going to head off, and this is going to be the chest area. And because of Zane's recent gymming, he doesn't have that much of a bicep yet, but he does have a bit of a chest, some pecs, so I can pump this a bit up for just for muscle mass. And I think when he started working here, he might have had a bit of a gut, but not anymore. And now also we have to take into consideration the clothing, because as clothing tend to do, the most protruding part of the whatever that might be, let's say for example you have something that's similar to that and you throw cloth over it, what would end up happening is the cloth would basically take the lazy shape. It's going to go like that, because it's not going to fill in that piece. You're gonna have to press down on the cloth for that to happen, and what's going to happen here is it's going to just fall down because gravity is pulling on it that way. What also might happen, because this point is so sharp, it's going to poke through the fabric. So as I said, with the chest area, the shirt's just basically gonna probably fall down. It would most probably take a similar shape to this, because sitting positions, not always standing, sometimes standing, but sitting positions especially, the shirt kind of does fall downwards. Like take for example, if you're hanging clothes at laundry and you have a blanket you're hanging, what you basically use the let's say clips, I forgot the English term for it, the sheet or the blanket here, so there's nothing holding it up here, so it's basically going to dip like this, and with that dip there's a bunch of extra weight and extra material that's falling down here, so it's going to take this kind of shape, but it's also going to pull on this side, which is basically held up by those pins, so you are going to get wrinkles that's going to fall into each other, kind of like this. And that's the same idea with clothing, because imagine these being the shoulders and this open piece, the neck. And also, oh damn it, because you're sitting, this piece of the shirt is being pressed upwards or held up by your crutch. So that even exaggerates this even more. But again, it's not always the case, and I think it's even less the case. It's most probably always going to be the case when you're sitting down, but when standing, it's not that frequent. When you're standing, it's basically just this downward pull. You can actually look on the webcam, you can look at my own shirt, the physics it's doing, where it's kind of pulling to the side a bit, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to create another skull situation. Well, actually, before I start drawing the shirt, I should try and figure out where the arms are going to go. And I'm going to use this drawing as kind of a reference, because earlier I did talk about this. Arms usually tend to be the same length, the upper arm, the forearm, with the upper leg and the lower leg. So I can just use this as a reference, and I understand, okay, the elbow is going to probably be there, and when he faces to himself, his hand is going to probably end there. We use that the same way on the other side. So yeah, as I said, we're going to make him refer to, or do this kind of pose to refer to himself. But also for now, his hands are actually quite close to each other. That's going to make things difficult for me. I'm going to change it a bit to make it more so that it's not like this, but more like this. It's just going to be easier and more functional for me, I think. Well, otherwise I can just try and figure out something. But if I do look at this, I kind of did mess up. The hand is supposed to start at this point and not. Also, something I did notice with myself, I usually, my first try drawing the hands, I tend to draw them a bit, only a little bit too small. No, it's not gonna work. So basically, looking at this, it's kind of going to be, there's going to be some form of symmetry. So instead of working from the shoulder, I should probably work from the chest itself, and kind of imagine the arm facing more this direction, which is going to close the actual length because of this perspective. So what I should actually do is kind of mimic this shape. So let's say it's just going to kind of end up looking a bit like this. I don't think this position would kind of mess that much with the cloth, because it's just pressing against himself. There's not really much pulling or pushing. It's just him tapping against his own chest, so there's not really any interference. Actually, I think there would be this area of the chest, there would be less creases and stuff because of the way he presses himself. Maybe with the neck there might be some pull here, but that would basically be it. And just to keep it kind of less confusing, I'm just going to remove the one crease on that side. But yeah, I'll focus on the arms a bit later. Yeah, it looks really weird when you only kind of put meat on the body and not the arms. It looks somewhat like a like a toddler or something. Zane, you should kind of look at this. This is how every Zane, their conception starts out.
Oh yeah, just rubbing his nipples, dude. It's absolutely gripping his thing.
Yeah, Zane is at the moment talking about cherries.
Cherries? Oh.
We like them big and strong and succulent.
Fair.
Juicy.
Fair enough.
So yeah, let's get to the face. So again, I'm gonna pull this previous one up. The thing that I don't really like about this one is the eyes are kind of made a bit more bigger than the rest of the other poses. I mean specifically about the other guys. But with that also said, Zayn generally doesn't have these massive eyes. He has more of a very chill face, so he kind of, without trying to insult him, he kind of looks like he's a bit high sometimes. So and also you can see here the one eye is a bit higher than the other one, so we can make him look just maybe a bit more human, a human that's not high. And especially when we look at the other pose, it's kind of these really laxed eyes. But I think with this pose, the face specifically, I'm not gonna make the eyes that lax. I think with the eyebrows, I'm going to still lift them up a bit. And with the eyes, I'm probably going to keep them wide open instead of so laxed like that. Well, that's probably subject to change, because I also like the laxed eyes. Maybe one eye wide open, one eye laxed, but then he's actually gonna look pretty high, or at least like someone smacked him over the head with a bat. Oh wait, actually too big, because otherwise the eyes won't look open. So actually I don't want to draw there, because I'm probably going to get it right there, and then it's not going to look, then I'm going to try and copy it over here, and then it's going to be an entire struggle. So I'd rather get it correct on his face. just trying to figure out the jawline at the moment. Again, I'm not that concerned about the jawline because besides Devalt, the rest of everybody here does kind of have a, if not a beard, a stubble. And while drawing the stubble slash beard, it kind of erases the jawline. So I'm not that worried about the shape and how it looks. Probably not like that. So generally the ear I did simplify it to a whole nother extent because you can, oh, not this version, but what I did to previously is I just did a simple diamond shape and kind of like H that smacked his head while jumping in a very small enclosure. But then I added this piece. Reason being, general ear shape, you do get a bit of that and that. But the ear canal starts at this point. So when you draw this, there's a bit of, I don't want to say, not necessarily flesh. I think cartilage would maybe be a better term, but overall my English aren't really well, so that might be the wrong word. That goes up to that point, so it's a bit of a dip here, and this one kind of fills in. The ear canal is going to start around there somewhere. Sometimes you would get a bit of a also a dip there. This won't always connect. Oh damn, that's definitely wrong. And again, this is just the ear, and then the actual shape would come over this. Oh, that's very, very not right, actually. This little chunk of meat here I usually call the ELL. That's not the English word, that's just what I call it. But it's basically a chunk of, almost want to say flesh, but yeah, just going to quickly do this because I realized I did draw on the wrong layer. Shame on me. Sorry for all the flashing. I apologize for everyone that's going to get sick of that. And then I'm going to kind of have to erase this bit, but that's fine, it's not that much drama. Oh, healed, I guess. So yeah, just looking at that, that's generally correct. I think this part might be a bit like this because as I talked to our intern yesterday, the face isn't really flat because I'm helping him draw characters, but he has this habit of struggling with the face. So I basically told him, if you're looking at the head from the top, it being like kind of a sphere, the face it's not necessarily flat, but it doesn't take part of this curve. It's more of a shape like that, except now for the nose and stuff. The nose would make it look like some sort of Tetris block. Let's just make this flat and this bigger. Now we have a Tetris block. So yeah, my idea here is to kind of work on Zane's eyes a bit, make them a bit less huge. Well, I think I'm actually going to use this one as a bit of a reference just to see what not to do. Because I think the placement of the eyes here is somewhat correct, though I would like it to not be this far away from the general center. This one is fine, I say, from the position it's in. Well, it is still quite flippin' high. So I think it's because I didn't use these lines to kind of get the proportion of them, that the eye turned out so wacky, if I can put it like that. So if I actually just clean this up a bit, I can check what we have. Sorry, this, as I said, this happens often. I tend to draw on the wrong layer. Which layer is this? Damn, that's way wrong. And this bit, yeah, I think I also made a bit too big in this specific. I'm just gonna try to mend that. Mangles. So mangles is the term we use to describe people that kind of mix Afrikaans and English together. Because meng in Afrikaans, it kind of means mix. So when you say mengels, it's kind of combining the words mix and English together. So when you do that, you get mengels, and the basic meaning is you're trying to you're mixing Afrikaans and English together. So when you hear people talk like this, you kind of get something like hey broer, vrou dat pencil my rigting. So I'm not good at mengels. I don't know how people talk it, so I just like thumb sucked it. Still not pretty happy with that eye. As a character on its own, that would be fine, but it doesn't look like Zane. That's my general problem with it. I think just lower this still a bit. Because I know it's a cartoon, we enlarge the eyes, but Zane's eyes really aren't that big. That's my problem with it. I want to see if I basically erase these lines, if it at least somewhat looks better. Which I think it does. Still doesn't look that much like Zane, but I mean, it's something. And something tends to be better than nothing. So just going to pull in the creases of the eyelashes. Da, 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 da. Wrong one. I think working off of this, I can make it look like Zane. But I'm probably not going to use this as a reference anymore, because I feel if I'm going to use this as a reference, I'm going to lead myself down a hole that I don't really want. Tomorrow when we talk about character design again, I'll talk about why I draw that little piece there. It's not always fitting, but there is a reason why I draw that. I want to fix that. That one is a little bit too close to the eye. And I also don't want to pull this too far down, because your eyebrow doesn't sit, it doesn't end next to your eye. It's supposed to be at the top of your eye. But with these drawings, I realized I did tend to grow a habit to draw it a bit too low. And part of the art style, which I to an extent regret I did, is I made, you can look at this one for example, I made the eyebrows really, I almost want to say kind of huge, but yeah. Is Zane chubby? No, Zane isn't chubby at all. Zane, come here, show yourself in front of the camera. Or actually, you can go to our Genesis. You can come, not come, you can go to our Instagram, E.I.E Digital, where there's photos of me and Zane, and you'll see. Stand in front of me.
Yeah, it's just my legs.
Oh, just your legs.
Just like my-
Crouch. There's a bit of a
Squatting
lag.
too much on there. That. My legs are down.
It's something. It's something. But yeah, it's 1, and I think we can end the stream here. I hope you check in again tomorrow. Tomorrow's stream is going to be a bit of a longer one again. So we're going to go through some tutorials for those that want to watch. So I'll bid you farewell now, and I'll see you again tomorrow. So cheers, cheers, guys. Have a good rest of your day.